certain tests are meant for certain seasons. And he's like, I need you to pass this test that you should have been passed, because there are tests that you are meant to take now at this age that I can't give you because you ain't passed this one that you should have been passed when you was like 22.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Valley of the Heroic podcast. I want to welcome you guys to this episode where I get to sit here with a dear brother of mine, somebody who got to see me grow up as a leader, and I got to see him coming to Christ and just giving his life completely sold out, like Carlos Boozer playing for the Bulls, just giving his body totally to the Lord in 100% fashion. And my brother Charles is here today. You can hear his laughter and see him laughing because we have some inside jokes. Today's conversation, I know, is going to be a great one. Charles is a jack of all trades. He wears many hats. Sometimes a stand-up comedian, sometimes a filmmaker, sometimes a marketing specialist, currently a career counseling helper at the University of which one?
North Carolina, Wilmington. And
an adjunct professor as well. So he out here doing all the things, helping people change their lives as he always was, whether it's on the basketball court or it's your local university. This is the type of guy that he is. He's always been a person that has been not only extremely charismatic, but somebody also that's very humble, a very good looking guy, I might say as well, my dear brother. Yeah.
Thank you.
And we'll be having a conversation today that I'm excited for. So welcome to the episode, guys. And Charles,
my brother.
When I think about, I think back to like years ago, right? Growing up, I remember that in church, I had a conversation with somebody about what is like your favorite attribute of God, right? But not in the sense of like favorite, like favorite sports team, right?
Yeah.
But like whenever you think about this attribute of God,
okay,
it makes you emotional.
Okay.
So for me, it was his faithfulness.
Okay.
Right. So whenever somebody would start preaching about his faithfulness, but it was like straight trigger to the heart for me, because that just is an attribute that I really connected with, because when I think about how faithful God is to me, even though I've been unfaithful to him, it really always hits me. So for you, I'm curious, what is the attribute of God that you most immediately connect with?
Okay.
I like starting with heavy questions.
Let's go. Heavy. You ready to go viral?
Yes.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's hit it hard. Real talk. I would say his omnipresence. That's the one for me, because there is somebody who knows my past, my present, and my future, and I will never know. And that's the hard part, because one of my favorite Psalms now is 139, right? Where it's like, I formed you in the womb. I knew your first day, every hair on your head, and your last, which is wild to think about, that there's somebody, or not even somebody, that God knew me before I was born, knows everything I was going to do and will do. So whatever like silly riffraff, as well as like blessings and good stuff I did back in the day, he knows. Today, he knows. And tomorrow, like he already knows, like when I dip and I go home, if I'm gonna, have a little mini like road rage, I'm like, oh, at the deep, or if I'm gonna be like, no, you got it, God, or if like I'm gonna go to work and next, I got a student and I'm like, hey, that's what's up, like and then, oh Lord, is it 5? Because this Joker's killing me, and that's the thing I think about, like, because I've always been somebody who's not legalistic, thinking about, like, I always thought about consequence, right? That now 2 important things in my life, which is wild, is disobedience and obedience. And it didn't hit me as hard, because I remember like back in the day, like even sitting at church where it was like, obedience brings blessings. I didn't realize that. And that disobedience messes you up, but it could be delayed. Like just because you're disobedient now doesn't mean the consequence happens that moment. It could happen in a month, a week, a year, 10 years down the line. So for me, everybody say his grace, his mercy. There are things I don't understand. I love God's mercy. To this day, I'm learning his grace. That's one of the things I don't understand, when they're like, you don't get what you deserve. And I'm like, bet, but there are some things I'm like, Lord, I'm praying for this. Like, where's the grace here? But what has helped me, in spite of like when things didn't go my way, when things went horrendous. Because when things are going good, we're not thinking about his omnipresence. It's when things go haywire, when I'm in my valley season, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, there's only one person who knows my future. And he may not tell me what it is, which sometimes I'm like, come on, man. I'm like, Senor.
Can I get a little glimpse?
Yo, for real. I'm like, Lord, come on. I'm like, but I don't want to keep falling. Like, why? Then just tell me not to do so. And, I had a conversation with my brother. I'm like, yo, why can't he just be like, No. He's like, you have free will. I'm like, sometimes I don't want free will, bro, because, Charles' free will be slipping hard.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah.
No. And so for me now, I'm like, that's what I think about. That one of my favorite attributes, I would say, is his omnipresence, because there's somebody who knows me better than anybody else, but also knows like when my last day is coming, like what's going to happen tomorrow. No one else does.
That's a really sobering thought. It's like it really puts things into perspective, because God knows all things.
Yeah.
And I had somebody describe it to me once, where they said that not only does he know all things, know the past, present, and future, but he's outside of time. So that means right now, he's at the moment you were born.
Mm-hmm.
He's here right now. Mm-hmm. And he's also at the place of your deathbed.
Yep.
And that's insane, bro.
It's a crazy thing to think about, right? I wouldn't even do it in my life. I'm like, if he wants, he could be looking right now at this moment. He's like, there's Peter denying Christ. Oh, there's Charles and Eric having a conversation. And then, that's the very last day that the world's going to exist. Like right now, my man could look at all three. And it's wild to think about.
And that's why he's never worried.
No, that we are.
We're worried.
We're the ones that are worried, because this is finite. And he's like, yo, didn't I tell you to worry? Which, oh man, I'm glad you just said that. Bet. I was thinking about this the other day, and it's like, when they say, what should you be concerned about? What should you worry about? I don't worry about 100 years from now. When they say plan, they're like, oh, planning. Yeah, you can have a plan and a vision, but I don't even think about 10 years from now. I don't think about 5 years from now. I don't think about a year from now. Nobody should, in the sense of like, or even a month, or even a week. No, I think about a second, a minute, an hour, and a day. And they're like, why? I said, because if you look at the word, he said, what good is it worrying about tomorrow? Yeah. Let tomorrow worry about tomorrow. Focus on today. Now, plan for the future. Yeah, I'm not saying that, but that's something I'm like, hold up. Why am I stressing over lo que viene mañana? Why am I doing that? I'm like, no. Today. Like, you have things to do today. What is it today? That when I woke up, I was like, bet, I got 3 things on my plate I need to take care of out the gate. Take my dad to work, I'm going to the gym, and I need to make it here. Then after this, I'm like, okay, what are the other things for today? Like, I fly back tomorrow. I'm not thinking about that.
Yeah.
Even with flights, like, I no longer get scared on planes, And
you used to?
Oh, I would get nervous with turbulence until 2 things. One, my friend works at Delta, and she explained to me like what turbulence really is. And then I thought about something Lipa said years ago. It's funny how it sticks. And he was like, I prayed for the pilot. And he goes, but there's only 2 outcomes. And he's like, you're either gonna land safely or tú te vas con el Señor. And I was like, yo, that's so real. Once I'm on that flight, I have 0 control. So I'm either gonna land at my destination safely, or if that's the day the Lord has called me to be home, then that's the day the Lord has called me to be home, and I'm good. Like, so when other people are like, I'm like, what is that gonna do? I'll pray 100%. I think you should, but as far as like me freaking out, like, I'm like, why? I'm either getting to my spot, or I'm like, I'm going to another place that's way better, and I'll never have to deal with that again. Like, that's the way. That's how you should. Like, that's how I think about it.
Way better is so funny.
Like, that's it. Like, I heard a story. It was real quick. This young girl was on a plane that has super turbulence, like crazy turbulence. People freaking out. There's this little 8-year-old girl, crayons, como si fuera nada, and they were like, oh my. And it was a pastor, because he was talking about it, that he went up to a little girl, like after they landed, he goes, may I ask you something? She was like, yeah. He goes, why were you not worried? Like, you didn't seem like you were scared when the plane was shaking or at all. And she goes, oh. She's like, well, the pilot's my father. And
why did I think of it right before you said it? I was like, I feel like the pilot
she was like,
her dad.
The pilot's my father, and he told me we're going home. I'm like, if that isn't like trust beyond belief with your father, I was like, and then I'm like, hold up. I need to not even I need to be like this little girl when it comes to the Lord. Like, hey, I better that. What did you tell me? So let me not freak out when things don't go my way or something seems haywire. And I'm like, okay. And then boom. And you can be at peace with certain things where it's like, yeah, you can have trials and tribulations. It's like, but I overcame those. And you're like, all right, bet. You know, I'm like, but I'm human. So help me overcome them. Cause some things hit and they hit hard. And so, you know, me now at this place, I'm like, what can I do with the time I have left? Like I think about morality. Now I'm not a moralist, but I think about my morality a lot deeper now because, dude, like we've known each other 18 years. And within those 18 years, we've both known people who have sadly passed away. Yeah. You know, children that have been born. You're a father now. Kudos to you. Like some of my best friends have kids, you know, and I'm like, but at the same token, I've lost colleagues, I've lost students, and I'm like, wow, tomorrow really is never promised. So I'm like, so it came to a point, it's like, yo, what are you really gonna do with the time that you have left? And I was really living in a place where I don't want to say like, you know, halfway in, halfway out Christian. No. But when you don't give everything to the Lord, bro, you gotta be sold out 100, you know? And I'm like, man, like I wasn't until now. And you know what's crazy? You know, full transparency, but I'm always careful with names. I came to Christ, hard body, 06, going into 07. Because I remember because at the moment, Stacy gave me an invite. Me and Stacy invited each other to each other's churches. He never made it to mine because I graduated. So I came up here and I was dating a young lady at the time. Boom, came up with me. And I remember I met you, I met Lewis, I met Pastor Mark. It was outside, the outside little before they made a building there.
Yeah.
And everything was gravy. And then boom, my relationship ended. And it was the first time in my life, I was 22, like month shy of 23, that I had given myself emotionally to a person. Yeah. And it destroyed me. Yeah. So what do? It was like, it set me up to chase him like crazy. Wow. And he put me around the people I needed to be put around. I was like, all right, let the healing begin, you know? And I was like, all right, cool. You know, and that's where I, like, to this day, I thank God for those years at Fuente because I grew so foundationally, you know, with people and stuff. And like, it was the best place for me that I developed relationships with people that to this day, I may not see them all the time, but I'm like, bro, when I see someone doing well, I'm like, man, I remember, or, you know, like there's certain people that still you like, oh no, that's for life, you know? And I thank God for that, but I thank God for that foundation. But however, I was like, you start going through years, you know, and next thing you know, you want to make sure that someone doesn't go through the same nonsense you went through the same sins, through the same hurts. So that's why now, I'm an adjunct, I'm a career counselor. I you know, like I was telling you earlier, honestly, when you're like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, yo, whatever the Lord tells me to now. Yeah. Because one, I don't know when my last day is, but two, I've gone through what I've gone through because now I want to help that next person. Like, I live my life now for future Charles. Like, wow, I wish I had me now when I was 22. Bro, my life would have been so different to be like, come here, listen. You gonna mess up.
That's it right there.
I need you to not mess up, man. You have no idea the potential you got. I need you to not do this. And I'm talking about with friendships, relationships. Like, I wish I had me like who I am today to be like, bro, don't. But one, that's free will. And, you know, that's the beauty, guys. Like, I still got you. And he's like, I'm gonna put you around. Because one of the things, all right, peep this, right? Who would you say is your favorite person, like, in the Word? Like,
in the Word, David.
Right. Everybody, this is what I love. People are like, yo, I want to be like Joseph. I want to be like David. I want to be strong like Samson. I'm like, all right, man, everybody just want to be these biblical characters. And then you don't realize that sometimes in your life, you're a Jacob. Sometimes in your life, you're a Jonathan. Like, yo, no one ever wants to be Jonathan. And I was like, yo, I didn't realize for a good portion of my life, I was Jonathan. And it wasn't for the reasons that some people in the book would think about. Jonathan loved his best friend, David, like there was no tomorrow. And I hate when people like they had a relationship. I'm like, miss me with that. Eso no fue así.
They just don't know what a
man,
friendship is.
loved them like there was no tomorrow. And everybody knew, like, those early years at Fuente, like, that was me and Lewis. Like, everybody was like, yeah, just like the early years, I was like, bro, it was like you and Phil. Like, everybody knew. Like, it was like, them two were there, and there's two there. So people knew. They were like, ahí va uno, ahí va el otro. I'm like, this one needs this. It was there. I was like, bet. And so for a good portion, I'm like, I was a Jonathan to certain people in my life, like had their back, like, yo, what? Food, I got you. A ride, I got you. That, and what I didn't realize, what was Jonathan's demise? It wasn't even his demise. This is where it gets a little deep. Because of his father's sins, Jonathan got murked. If you don't start to combat and start to deliver, renounce, rebuke, and fix what was done previous to you, look at that, bro. David lost his A1 that he weep for Saul and then speak negative on him. But Jonathan, the homie was like, hey, what? Let me talk to my dad. Like, that's how, he's like, hey, Pop, come on, man. Ease up on David. And he was like, all right, you right. Send a message. Hey, David. Wait, you good now? All right, cool, come through. But at the same token, when his father was really trying to murk him, hey, what? Dip. Like, do you know what it is to have somebody like that profound that's like, my dad wants to kill you. I ain't gonna let it happen. Not under my watch. We that tight.
Yeah.
Didn't hate his own father because that's who his own father was. Boom. Because of his father's sins. Because he was so prideful. And I was like, hold up. And I realized I love my dad now. There are people who know my father. My father came to Christ. My father's been baptized. My father and I have a way, like, super better relationship now.
That's awesome.
But I realized I inherited a lot of, say it, demonio. I was like, there were spirits, there were things that were attached to me from my father, from my grandfather. My grandfather stepped out on my grandmother and left. My dad grew up without a dad. My dad tried to fix it. So what happened? At one point, my mom and dad separated, but he came back. So I was already seeing my dad never dealt with that. And now I'm seeing that. Like my dad's separation, my dad's, infidelity back then. And then I'm like, all right, so that's what I'm taught. And I was like, hold up. So the sins that my father never confessed, and boom, ahí va.
Yeah.
So one thing I knew, even though I was fighting so many different things, was that I'm like, I'm not going to pass that on to a kid. I wanted to be a father, still do. But I knew well enough, like, if I don't fix this stuff, there's no way. I'm like, I'm not bringing that in. Like, whatever son or daughter I have, you're going to be good. Because the trash that happened before me, the buck stops here.
Yeah.
I'm not bringing that in. And so I was like, for a good amount of time, I was like, I was Jonathan. But not Jonathan because I'm your bestie. I'm like, I'm suffering my father's sins. I'm getting murdered. I'm dying. And I was like, why am I dying? Why are my relationships dying? Why are my friendships dying? Why is this dying on me? I'm like, what's going on here? And I had to, like, where did it start? Where did it not get seen? And then, hey, you got to put a stop to this. And that's why I'm like, I'm big on prayer, yes, but what Christ says, he's like, this doesn't go away without prayer and fasting. So I started praying, started fasting, but then you take it another level. You got to be obedient. It's like, hey, no mira esto, no haga eso, all of those things. Where now I'm like, okay, if I am going to get somebody there, okay, what happened to me, or what can I do to then help that next person? Because I hear it. They're like, oh, we hear in the Bible, Jonathan, David. I'm like, cool. And then Abraham, I was like, father of faith. And this dude, I'm like, but do you know there's some other people like, I'm like, that you kind of resemble? And you don't realize it? And then, one of the things that for me, and then when the Lord smacks you, he smacks you. I always said, And this is when, and that's why I was like, yo, no one brings notebooks. I'm like, chill, I'm gonna bring one because I need to revert back to stuff. He's like, go ahead, do it. I always said, I'm like, yo, I'm a great number two. I'm a great number two. I'm like, bro, you couldn't tell me I'm not the best Scotty out here. I was like, bet. I was like, what you need? And at massive amounts of times, yo, what do you need? Boom, boom, I got it. Supporting somebody. Hey, yo, has somebody's back. Like, oh, what's going on over there? Like, no, I got you. I'm with you. And then you like, wait, but that's like, if I'm your number two, my guy, like, where's the like, come on, like, where's the return on investment when I need it?
Yeah.
Until now, when the Lord hit me, and it was like, you be in prayer, and it's like, when did I ask you to be number two? I said, wait, what? And I think about basketball, and you know how we played. We played ball heavy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it was. Well, I mean, I'm an emotional dude. I wear my heart on my sleeve, but it was like the early 90s, dog. I was watching Mike and Kobe, and I was like, I had that dog in me that I was like, I didn't care if it was down 2. I was like, yo, give me the rock at the end. I know what I'm doing. Bro, I'm not losing. I'm not going out with this L. And I didn't realize, like, yo, when it came down the ball, I was like some people knew. They're like, oh, this dude. What? They're like, yo, we up. No, we're not. It's just like he hit that switch. And it was like, yo, it was like, when did I ask you to be number two? You told me you a great number two. I never asked you to be number two. And then I realized I was scared to be number one.
Wow.
And the reason why I was scared, because I didn't trust who he would make number two, because I had trust issues. I felt like people could trust me more, which is why I was so comfortable being number two, that you were like, yo, can you be here? I got it. Yo, can you I got it. Yeah. But I was too scared to be one because I didn't trust someone else, because I hated when someone failed me. And where does it stem from? Well, great. My main number one wasn't there when you're a child. Who is it? Your mom and dad. But if we go man to man, you're learning that from your father. So when your father's not there, how are you? Then you're like, yo, you're in self-defense, self-preservation mode.
Yeah.
And that's where I was at. And I was so comfortable sitting at a number two spot to support, because I hated the disappointment of like, all right, bet. And then, wait a minute, I'm by myself out here. I'm like, wait a minute, am I Elijah out here? Like, what's going on? Like, and then it hit me. Lord was like, I never asked you to be number two, son.
It's crazy the things that we'll do to protect ourselves. There's this author that I read a book about self-sabotage, and she talks about how self-sabotage comes from protecting comfort. We self-sabotage to protect our comfort, even if that comfort is based in discomfort. Mm-hmm. It's like, at least I know this discomfort.
Okay.
I know it. I'm aware of it. This is what I've been in. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to self-sabotage myself back to this, because to grow means to be uncomfortable in a way that I haven't been uncomfortable before. Right. Therefore, making it more uncomfortable than this discomfort. At least I know this.
So you say that. So recently, I've been, because I was a career counselor, I wasn't licensed. And so if I wanted to do therapy, I went into a program. So I'm in the midst of getting my therapeutic license, because I wanted to help Black and brown men. I wanted to help men like me. So when you're learning about, everything from neurons, dopamine, chemical imbalances, things of that nature, you said that, and I was like, peep game. So 2 things. One is, we as humans are more prone and comfortable with the pain that we're accustomed to than the uncomfortability of pleasure. Like, how wild is that? You are comfortable with the pain, as opposed to the uncomfortable pleasure and blessing. And I was like, man. And you learn these things like, yo, how did I do that? And it comes from people pleasing, self-sabotage, right? And so one of the things that you were saying that, and something the Lord hit me with, you will only be as free as you are willing to be honest. And then, are you honest with yourself? I had to look myself in the mirror and be like, do I like myself? And I was like, no. There were so many hidden things that I was not fond of, proud of, and scared to admit. And I was like, okay. Like, one of the reasons I went into therapy is because I wanted to help men with addictions, not drug addictions, specifically sexual addictions. Because as a child, and part of it is when you release, that's it. Enemy wants you to keep it quiet.
100%.
I had a pornography and a sexual addiction. Now it's rampant, and it detests me. And it's like when you say detest and renounce, that you find it disgusting, and I do. Brother, I was exposed, and it kills me because when I hear now how kids are, I was exposed at the age of 5, my brother.
Wow.
5. To then have that for years, decades, you're causing so much damage psychologically to yourself that then the dopamine hit gets worse and worse. And so I was actually talking to Mike yesterday. I went to see the guys, and I was like, so here's something that studies have shown, and it's something that I'm diving into even further. Coming off of sexual and pornographic addiction, let's just go there, is harder than someone coming off of combined fentanyl, meth, cocaine, marijuana. Wow. Because this is where I was like,
that's
wait
such a crazy thing that it's like, that's hard for me to believe,
bro. And
that's wild.
And there are people, that's not scientifically. I'm like, listen, there are studies. I'm not saying this is a proven fact, but there are multiple studies, and there may be some studies that counter. But here's the deal. That the
fact that it's even possible is crazy.
I was listening to a professor. Her name's escaping me. Dr. Trish, neurological specialist, PhD, genius, North Carolina. And she was like, all right, here's the reason why. Someone who has an alcohol addiction, someone who has a cocaine addiction, meth, you have to ingest the chemical to get the high. You have to put it in your system. For anyone, especially a child and an adult, when you're viewing this adult content, filth, I'm going to go with the word, you're not ingesting anything. You are visually, chemically changing, you're rewiring your brain. So if I'm addicted to alcohol, once I stop, I'm not taking the chemical, so my body's gonna fight that. But I know that I didn't take anything, so I'm gonna get the withdrawal symptoms. When you're viewing something, you're not ingesting anything, so there's nothing to withdraw. So it's harder because it's your mind that you have to rewire.
Wow.
And then it's like, that's why for me, when I take you back, encounter, right? We do like summer camps and stuff. So, and we went to like 3 together, 2 that were impactful. And then I remember I'll share a story about something, but I remember we were there, and I remember Naomi was talking about music, how we have to be careful what we listen to, 100%. But then I was sitting in the back. I'm like, chill, I was a radio, TV, film major. I'm like, why aren't we talking about what we watch? Because I remember we went as a group. I don't know if you were there with us. I know a good chunk of us went, and we saw 300 together.
No, I wasn't there.
And the whole, this is Sparta. Everybody's like, oh, everybody want to go to the gym. And I was like, hold up. But there's a few scenes in that movie where I'm like,
it's a little sus.
I'm like, that woman is clearly not wearing anything. And I'm like,
you're looking around like, is anybody seeing this?
I'm like, so are we going to talk about? And so one of the things I remember I brought to Alan, we were just chatting. I said, yo, I think there should be some sort of message on what we watch too. And he was like, that's a good point. Because for me, that's where it hit me harder.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, it's because when I was 5, I got exposed to this nonsense. So that I'm like, when people are like, don't listen to this, I'm like, and I agree. There's so many like raunchy, dirty music. I'm like, I try to do my best to do so. Like, I will admit, I'm weaning off of it because when I'm in the gym, it's hard to like put up 185
Here I am to worship.
Worthy is
Here
the man.
I
Like,
am
ah!
to bow. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You're not
And I'm
pushing out
like,
that last rep.
I'm like, CC Winans can only do but so much when I'm trying to curl. Like, So I have, I'm working on, so I like try to play instrumentals. But if you know the words, you know the words.
Yeah.
But visuals, man. And I'm like, why are we giving okay to this? Like the biggest one now is people having debates about the movie Sinners. And they're like, Christians should see this. I'm like, few things. One, I'm like, look at the title alone. I'm not bashing the movie. For myself, I'm like, is that going to help me? If we're going to be honest with the body of Christ, what does he say? What's edifying? Like, what are you putting in your system? I'm sorry. You hear enough things, you're going to repeat them. You see enough things, you're going to repeat them. Mind, then into the heart, and then into the action.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, what am I watching? I had to chill because in college, that's where it went downhill for me. I'm watching all this filth. I'm living on my own. And then you get the option. Next thing you know, you and your girlfriend are having this conversation, or you're just dating and then like, boom, one night stand. Or you and your girl fornicate.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about that.
Right.
So I'm going on years with no regulation on me. And I was like, so that way when you're trying to wean off of it, you can't. Not without help.
Yeah.
You know?
Let me add to that real quick.
Yeah.
It also stresses the importance of us being aware of ourselves and knowing both what God is speaking to us, because God is going to speak to you. God might tell you, hey, you know what? I don't want you to work out Wednesday mornings for like whatever reason, right? And that is something he's speaking to you, and you need to be aware of that, right?
Yeah.
So that's the worst example, but being able to know when God is speaking to you something, a limitation or a directive, is for a reason. And also knowing yourself.
Yeah.
To know, oh, I have an issue with porn, right? And it was extremely hard for me to overcome this barrier, right? It took me years. It took me so much time. And one day God freed me from it, because the only thing that's going to get you over that hump usually is God, right?
100%.
And now you got to be way more careful than somebody that maybe never struggled with any type of sexual addiction before.
Yeah.
You have to be aware of what's your personal convictions, and also being aware of what your personal limitations are.
Yeah.
So as I get closer to God, one of the things that I realize is that the limitations become more exclusive and smaller.
Yeah.
Right. It's very specific things that God makes me aware of.
Amen.
Because he knows me.
And he knows what you're capable of.
Me. And if wisdom is me saying, okay, amen, God, I'm not going to watch this movie, even though maybe fulanito de tal, he could watch the movie and he might not have a problem. Yeah. For me, this is going to be a problem. I'm going to go home. And why am I going to go home? Even if I'm victorious in the struggle, why put myself in the struggle?
And I say is that there are some people who are fortunate enough to know your struggle and help. I'll be real. So there was one sister, remain nameless, just out of respect. We went to the movies together, right? And it was, I'll say the movie, it was the first Deadpool movie. And we went like with some of her family members. It was just like an outing. And there's a sex scene in Deadpool. Mm-hmm. I put my head down. I was like, I can't. And she leans over and she was like, I didn't know this was in here. She's like, I'm so sorry, because she knew of my struggles. Sister in Christ. Yeah. She knew. And I was like, it's cool. I was like, let me know when it's done. I wasn't doing all that. I just looked down, my eyes closed. And that's it. And then boom, hit me off. And I was like, cool. And I was like, I'm like, man, I can't even enjoy a Marvel flick. Lord. And it was just, but there it's like, all right, how intentional do you want to do this? Dude, it's there. And it's like, so what do you do? Like, it pains me now, man, because there's so many people, man. If I start crying, I start crying. I don't care.
People cry here.
Oh yeah, no. I was already example, but I'll say it like this, man, because I know that there are some people who are gonna watch this who I'm formally connected to or I've known.
Yeah.
So I can say this first to the men first. I will say, if I knew you or if I still know you, and I wasn't a good brother, I wasn't an honest brother. I wouldn't say if, I'm sorry. When I wasn't a good brother, when I wasn't an honest brother, when I didn't help you, when I lied to you, when I hurt you, I sincerely apologize. But on top of that, I pray that God has healed you. And I pray that one day, if you haven't, that you can come to forgive me. But on the flip side, the harder one, and I'll say it like this because God gives you that. Unfortunately, there are many sisters that I hurt. And I don't see them as sisters anymore because they're God's daughters. They're my sisters, but it hits you when it's like, that is someone's daughter. And it rocks me now. All right. And I will say, looking at the camera, because I know we're supposed to be here, to the women out there, when I did any verbal, physical act with you that was inappropriate, I apologize. And I mean acts of fornication, making out, those things, I sincerely apologize. I've sought forgiveness, but at the same time, taking accountability, saying, hey, I was wrong for my words and for my actions. And for that, you deserve an apology. You deserve forgiveness. You deserve accountability. And here's a man to say, I'm not blaming anyone else. Yes, the enemy had a hold on me, but I still have free will and made some decisions that I'm not fond of. So to you, I sincerely apologize. You didn't deserve that. You deserve the brother who would have protected you, who would have spoken to you. So I'm not going to blame my former addictions. I will say those things didn't help. They hurt. And I was a hurt person. And they say hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
And I apologize because that's 100% true, man. Hurt people hurt people. And I was hurt. And I didn't know where to place that hurt. Where now I have a righteous anger for that stuff where I'm like, oh, it's a wrap. You know, that when you keep it to yourself, you're not helping anybody. And that's what it was. I was so ashamed. That's what the devil do. He'll guilt you and shame you. I was so ashamed of what I did. I was so ashamed of my secret. I was so ashamed. I'm like, man, but I'm like, I got so many, moments in college where I was not healthy, or I said like, like I was just like, man, I slept with her. I was downloading this. I was downloading that. Far from Christ. And then I found him. But I struggled with two notions, and something I was talking to a former woman. I was we were dating, and it was like, my problem in college was, especially my senior year, I was struggling because I wanted to be the man.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a man. They don't always hit. Because when you're just a man and you're a man for Christ, that's totally different than being the man.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here giving myself to the Lord. I'm like, remember I went to church and I was like, all right, bet. And I remember because I went with my frat brothers because I was pledging, which I'm no longer a part of. We'll get into that as well. But the Lord will use anything. He used any. I mean, listen, he used a prostitute. He used a thief. He used a murderer. He can use me. He can use my org. He can use whatever that was. And then, but that's where the struggle was then. It's like, all right, am I the man on campus or am I his son? And it's like, you can't do both. You lukewarm. But
Yeah.
some people are lukewarm and comfortable, and there's some people who lukewarm and struggle. Bro, I was struggling.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I want to be this guy, but I want to be this guy.
Yeah.
But being this guy won't allow me to do that. And then being this guy, like I couldn't fake it, bro. Like, dude, do you know how hard it is? Like, I don't know if you remember, like, when I first went to Fuente, dude, I was working for Hot 97 and Kiss FM those first few years.
I think I forgot, but now I remember.
Bro,
Yeah.
man, those were some of the hardest years. And also some of the best, because this is how I knew the Lord was like, I'm on you. That at one point, I want to say like my second or third year, it was only because of God. It wasn't because of me. And that's why I loved it. And I was like, I need that back. I would be at work and people would apologize for cursing around me. They'd be like, yo, that spit. And they're like, my bad, Charles. Because they said the other word. And I was like, oh, yeah, y'all good. Yeah, it's cool. And I didn't realize, because I was always so forthright about Christ and talking about God. And I was like, yeah, that people were like, yeah, nah, don't curse around Charlie. And I was like, oh, well, thank you. And it didn't dawn on me. And I'm talking about like everyone, like in different areas. But then I was like, hold up. I can't. So with that, you talk about full circle moment. The very first and last interview when I was working at the station, dude, I was like, Lord, you know what? Only you. Because I was doing like street team promotions and stuff. And, they got that. They'll interview anybody, So they weren't doing all their videos yet. Like it was just starting. It was trending. They were getting like everybody. And the first one that I was supposed to record was an adult film star getting interviewed on the morning show. Brother, I can't make this up. I'm like, okay.
That's crazy.
I mean, I'm doing my job. It's just they're having the conversation. I'm recording so that I can edit it, cut it, bung, 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 bung. Towards the tail end, I'm like, all right. This is when I was like, Lord, I think I need to go. And the Lord didn't say, hey, leave. He didn't give me permission. Like, he didn't say dip. I dipped. I could have stayed. But for me, it was 6 years later, whatever. They're like, hey, Charles, there's an interview in the morning. I'm like, cool. And I'm like, who is it? And they say the person's name. And sadly, because I had seen enough, I knew just off the name who that person was. It was a female adult film star. And I said, nah, you got to be kidding me. And that right there, instead of like, Lord, how do you want me to proceed? Because I could have gave that woman the gospel. I didn't even think about it. Yeah. I was so still because I wasn't free. I was so ashamed.
Wow.
And it's like, so here's another thing. Like, they all need prayer in Christ, and people who come out of it, I'm so thankful for. But it's like the shame. How am I, man in his mid to late 20s, I'm supposed to stand there and record a conversation between a group of people? And I have seen one of those people. I've seen this woman in her most intimate setting.
It's crazy.
I'm like, wait a minute.
Wow.
I'm like, that's not cool. Now you want to hit yourself off. I'm there thinking about that. Then years later, the Lord will still mess with you. And he's like, so now, how do you think the Lord feels when you've done that outside of marriage? I was like, okay, can you take the knife and these gunshots out? I'm like, oh my gosh. I was basically doing the same thing, just without any equipment, with said woman. And I felt lower than low. I felt like dirt, bro. And I was like, holy smackers. And that's when the fire started to build. I was like, no, man, this is destroying people. It's destroying me. And I felt so much shame. And I remember going to my pastor. I'm like, yo, I'm going to need assistance with this. And he was like, you need to learn godly sorrow. Guilt and shame is from the enemy. Godly sorrow is different. When you have godly sorrow, then you know. If you just feel guilty about what you did and shame, that's fine. Like, it's not fine. It's like, that's what that is. You have to have godly sorrow because you grieved the Lord about what you were doing. like a ton of bricks, man. I was like, wow. You see everything with a different lens. But then also, you also have to protect your lens, man. And it's like,
that's real.
What parameters are, what guardrails are you putting in place to protect yourself and to protect your friends, to protect your family? So you're like, hey, yo, don't do that. I can't do that. I'm sorry. I can't hang with you. I can't do that. I can't promote that. I can't, but also giving somebody the space to be like, yeah, I struggle with that too. Because let's be real. We've been, disciples for a minute, but that's one topic that doesn't get brought up at church.
No.
And it's always like really short. Like, we got to pray for people. And it's like, don't fall into infidelity. Don't fall into sexual sin. And that's it. But now let's talk about all the other stuff. And it's like, what about that? Why are we so scared to talk about that?
It's shame, 100%. A lot more people are dealing with it. And so because they're dealing with it, they're ashamed. And shame always keeps everything in darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way it could be healed is bringing it to the light. And it's rarely brought to the light because so many people are ashamed.
And it took me to radically stand up. And I remember we had like a revival night. I'm at a church in, North Carolina where I live. And they were like, if you have a word. And I was like, oh, nah. And he was already nudging. Like, yeah. I was like, I'm not going to be, someone else better do it. No, it's going to be you. I'm like, come on, Father. And I remember because the first time I came to Christ, I got the same nudge, peep game. I'm 20. I was dating this girl. And I went to a church. They have Christmas services. Jersey City. My best friend came with me at the time from high school, David. So we're there. I was like, hey, I'll find a parking. Y'all go upstairs. I find a parking. I'm there. There's two moms with infant kids and one seat in the middle. I couldn't sit with my friends. Both babies were already, and I'm like, so once I sit down, both babies, and they stopped. So the moms are already like, please don't leave. Because the babies aren't crying. I don't know what presents I brought because I wasn't playing with them. Like, no, I was just like, okay. And they stopped, like both.
Wow.
They were like, mom was joking. She was like, please don't leave. Like jokingly, but I know she meant that. It's like, I need this kid calm.
Yeah.
They do an altar call. Everybody's going. And I was like, part of me is like, go, don't go. Go, don't go. I'm standing there. I'm seeing everybody go to the altar, right? And I see this one spot because people, once it's packed, you stand behind the other person. And I see this one spot next to the speaker that no one has yet to take, like on the altar, like right there on the pulpit. I was like, why is no one? There's an open spot right there. I'm talking about there's at least 80 plus people.
Wow.
It's a small pack. And then I'm like, all right, Lord. And then 3 people start walking by from the aisle. And I'm like, all right, Lord, if none of those 3 people take the spot, I'll go. None of those 3 jokers took it. And I'm here like, and then I was just like, fine. And then I was like, whoop, I just walked. And I bent over and I started praying. And this is when I was like, talk about embarrassment. I'm praying. Some woman puts her hands on me. She's praying for me. God bless her. I'm still praying. Another gentleman comes over, puts his hand on me, prays, and then dips. I'm still praying. Eyes closed, kneeling. I'm praying. I'm just like, Lord, I need deliverance. I need assistance. I'm like, this is my day one. I'm 20. I'm like, help.
Yeah.
Right? I open my eyes and stand up. The house lights are on. The altar call is done. And I'm the only person standing there because it was done. So everybody went back to their seat. So I stand there and I'm looking at the whole congregation staring at me, fam. I was like, I never beelined it so back to my seat. I was like, just go back to your chair. And I just sat down. I was like, everybody just saw me. Great. Service is over. My friend was like, she goes, hey, my pastor wants to talk to you. I'm like, of course he does, because he just saw me. Comes over, he's like, and I didn't know the lingo. So he goes, is this your first time coming to the Lord? And I'm here like, my response was like, no, I've been to church plenty of times. I didn't know what that meant.
I mean, because there's no way you could have known.
I was like, huh? I'm like, no. But I was raised a Catholic. I did my baptism, communion, confirmation.
Yeah.
But I always believed in the Lord. I never prayed to a statue, or I should say I never prayed to a saint. But I always prayed to the Lord. Young. And so
According to you, like you were good.
I was like, I was always looking at him. So, that transpires. I'm like, all right, cool. So fast forward, I'm like, I can't do those same things. So now when I'm talking to someone, I'm like, hey, you got to take over. Don't be afraid for me to use me as a vessel. That when I'm at the station, people weren't cursing around me. There was one sister, Sarah, God bless her heart. This is how wild it was. A lot of dudes was like trying to get at her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, okay. And I was like, hey, let's do lunch. All right. And then I was like, you don't have to say yes, but I think you would benefit from an encounter. I told her about the one I went on, my weekend one.
Yeah.
She was like, okay. I paid for her encounter.
Wow.
I was that invested. I wasn't interested in her. I was that invested on her journey. I was like,
That's
bet.
real.
She goes, the girl's like transformed, saved. Like we had a conversation maybe last year, years later. She was like, I know I've said it before. I still want to thank you. That weekend changed my life.
Insane.
And I'm like, yo, I was just obedient.
Yeah.
If I was disobedient, no. But then I'm like, man, it hits you. I'm like, if I was just obedient all these years, the blessings that would have been there instead of being disobedient. But then when you recognize, yo, you got to get rid of stuff.
Yeah.
And you sometimes can't do it on your own. But you say shame and guilt. Let's say it like this, right? And I'm for myself, I have not been the best boyfriend in the past. And that's my fault, unfortunately. I sadly say that because I was hurt, I self-sabotaged and I even stepped out of my relationships. There's no like, oh, I'm like, yeah. And, I didn't know how to tackle my insecurities, my anger, my depression. Didn't know how to do that. And because of that, I ran away from some stuff. I hid some stuff and I self-sabotaged some stuff because I didn't know, because I was always like, well, if I show you who I really am, you're going to be like, deuces. I can't deal with you. That's what was in the back of my head. Couple that with, why is it? I said, like, you go to church, we protect and we want to help victims. But very rarely, and what hurt is like, but what about the person that wants to be restored who made the offense? So let's say you got two 23-year-olds in a relationship. And the young man steps out, right? Boom. Bro, I was treated like a leper.
Yeah.
Not at Fuente, because I wasn't in that. But I remember it took me years to heal from that first heartbreak. I'm now at another church. And I remember we got into it. It was not healthy. And I made the mistake of stepping out. Brother, when I tell you, I thought I was Judas. No one spoke to me. No one, and I went to brothers, not women. And I was like, look, I'm not making an excuse. I said, I need help. You would think, like, okay, this dude is being humble. He messed up. There was no help. And I'm like, hold on. Don't we say, and this is why, like, yo, you know who my best friends now are? It's like the old dudes at my church. Yo, honestly, that's my favorite time. Like, I love greeting like new people. I'm at a church called Epic Church, and there's at least 4 brothers, 4, sometimes 5. They're all 65 and older. I just stand there and I'm listening to them just dropping gems. I'm like, great. It was one of their wives who said about, she was like, I remember I did a greeting morning presentation and I was like, you may not be feeling well. I was like, yo, leave your problems at home. Come to church so we could be together. She was like, I need to correct you somewhere. I said, what did I do? She goes, this is where people are supposed to bring their problems. This is where they're supposed to bring their hurt, because God is here for the broken and the sick, not the people who are already well. They come too. She's like, so don't tell people to leave their problems at home. Tell them, I don't know, bring them. And I was like, oh. I was like, thank you, sister.
Such a perspective shift.
Bro, that for me now, I'm like, my past is my testimony. I don't want anyone ever to have dealt with what I dealt with. So now I want to help. I'm like, yo, when I got a young man, 20-something, he's like, bro, I'm struggling with what? Pornography. Great. I got guardrails you could put. We're going to put covenant eyes in your phone. Let's talk about when it started. Let's have this conversation so we can get you off of that. It's like, bro, I'm in fornication with my girlfriend. Or if it's, I try not to talk to women in that nature, but I work at a university. So sometimes I'll have a female student confide, but what I do now differently, I'm like, all right, cool. Immediately, I'm like, are you comfortable telling another woman? Or I'm like, or if you're going to tell me, are you cool if I bring another female counselor in place so you can, do that? I'm like, okay. But I mostly try to help young men and so it's like, cool. You're not alone. And I'm not going to treat you any different or look at you like you're this scum, because that's how I was looked at. And it's terrible when like you do wrong and you want to do wrong. That's different. Like, I bet.
Yeah.
Like, I'm happy being the bad guy. And it's different when you somebody who has fallen. And this is the scripture in Ecclesiastes that hurts me when I read it, where it says, woe to he who falls by himself, for there's no one there to pick him up. Better to fall with a brother, because your brother's there to pick you up. And that's why I come back full circle. I was always comfortable being number 2, because if my brother fell, I was quick to pick him up. Like, bro, It's all right. Brother or sister, like, no, come up. I didn't want to be number 1 because not only was I afraid, but I had a history of falling and no one picked me up.
Yeah.
Like that, the Samaritan. I'm like, where is my Samaritan? I have been lied to. I've been beaten. I've been murdered, and I'm on the floor. Where's my person? Where's my, hey, let me help you up? Yeah, the Lord. I'm like, yes, but sometimes you need a physical person to be like, yo, come on. And I wasn't seeing that. So I was like, I will not let that happen to somebody on my watch. If I see a young man, I'm like, yo, hold up. There's help for you. Let's do that. I'm like, I'm happy that my pastor's like, yeah, we don't do that at this church. Like, what's the issue? All right, let's talk about it. Like if it's a sister, they correctly get female elders to help, not harm, not push, and I'm like, cool. And that was one thing that I missed out on, because I'll be honest, there were only 2 people that did that foundationally for me. And one of them is no longer here, and that was Stacy and Ronnie.
Mm-hmm.
Love them to death. But I was low as low.
Yep.
No, you're wrong. No, this. It was like, you got to get better. Pero con amor, you got to get better. And lifted me up, man. That helped me. Then I was like, I got to do that for someone else in whatever realm, but especially that realm, because I know how hard that is and how terrible that is. Bro, I'm anti that stuff like there's no tomorrow. But there's so much stuff now that you have to be on top of. Like, dude, middle schoolers with cell phones, VPN spiked 80 to 150% VPNs for middle schoolers with cell phones. Why? Because I was happy when they're like, oh, you can no longer just jump on a website. You got to put a license in. I was like, hey, that's a start. I don't want it to exist. But so what they're doing, getting VPNs for other countries so they could do that. So now you have another org trying to control how VPNs work. Bro, the enemy don't stop. And so I'm like, yeah, no, not on my watch. I got a righteous anger because those things messed my psyche up, messed me up. Then I'm like, hold up. Is this my sister? Is this God's daughter? Or is this an object? When you look at a woman like an object, that's it. You're done. Because it's the flip side too. I'm talking about it from a male's perspective, but there are women who look at it like that. Like, man, he's fine. I just want that. That I didn't know until my therapist told me. He's like, have you forgiven yourself for being used? And I said, wait, what? It was like, you keep talking about like you did this act, like you fornicate, you had sex with another woman. Yeah. But do you realize that there were certain times in your youth that women only wanted that from you? And I was like, oh my God, that is true. And I never forgave them because I wasn't even thinking about, I'm some 20-something-year-old, you know, and I didn't replay that in my head to think, oh my God, those statements, those comments. And I was like, oh my God. And I had to pray and forgive them, but then also be like, yo, there's a level of responsibility there for yourself and for the other person that now, you know, I am no squeaky clean individual. You know, I may dress this way, but when I was like, I'm not gonna come here baratao, because I think about it like this too. I no longer represent my name. I represent my parents' name, and I represent God. And one thing, I'm not gonna come on any podcast, any place disheveled, and I'm bearing my mom's name.
Yeah.
I'm bearing my father's name. I've had to learn this, you know, because when you go through some things, sometimes you gotta hit rock bottom, and I did. You know,
I think we always have to hit rock bottom because we're hard-headed.
Bro, man,
people do not change until they. This is what I've centered a lot of this work on.
Yeah.
You know, nobody has said this, but I could imagine somebody might be like, well, why do you talk about pain and suffering so much and the valleys? And I don't just talk about the valley. I talk about the heroism.
Yeah.
Right. So, but the thing is that the valley is what makes the hero.
Yeah.
Look at comic books. It's like the tried and true formula. Why is it the tried and true formula? Because it's true. Batman loses his parents as a kid.
Yeah.
It fuels, makes him, there's a comic that actually calls him, he's like, I'm geeking out over here with my Batman stuff.
Here we go.
There's a comic where he's kind of like losing himself.
Yeah.
And like Alfred has to bring him back.
Okay.
And he tells him he's a machine of hope.
Let's go.
A machine of hope.
I like that.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Okay.
Because his brokenness fueled him to make him the apex body.
Okay.
To become a hero, even though he didn't have superpowers.
Yes.
And he did so because he didn't want somebody to ever experience what he did.
Okay.
And so Alfred's like, Batman, you are a machine of hope.
Let's go.
You are giving hope to people that if you weren't there, they would go through what you went through.
Okay. You say brokenness. Here we go. You say Marvel, I'm going to give you a nursery rhyme. And I was like, Lord, you use anything. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses, all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty together again. And then it hit me. I was like, wait a minute. If I'm Humpty Dumpty and I just had a great fall, that makes sense. All the king's horses couldn't do it. All the king's men couldn't. And then I was like, wait a minute. King of Kings. It's because it's not meant for the horses or the men to put it together. It is only meant for the king to put Humpty together. Though there's no part two, but in my mind, I'm like, man, if I'm Humpty and I fell, it's like, the king has to put you back together again. And that is what I asked. I'm like, Lord, you just use a nursery rhyme on me, sir? And it hit. I'm like, yo, that's crazy how certain things can hit you and then boom. And I was like, boo, you know why? You were there for one of them. I've realized every time I have gotten a major physical injury, the Lord has like, I got your attention. Now pay attention to me. Here we go.
Rock bottom.
Bro, I remember, dude, when I used to host the basketball games in Jersey City, everybody was like, yo, we missed those. They were great. I'm like, cool. I remember I tore my tendon and I couldn't play ball. And I was like, but I'm not going to stop. I said, no, y'all got it. Bro, I was like, all right, Lord, you're doing something. Dislocated my shoulder that one night playing with the twins, Larry, my cousin. And I remember, yo, the only time in my life I have ever, and I say it, the Lord has spoken to me. Like I heard his audible voice only once and once in my life. And it was then. And I only said one word. I slammed into that wall, dislocated my shoulder. I'm sitting there on the ground and all I hear is Jacob. And I'm like, oh, come on, bro. Really? Why? Because it's the story of Jacob. Jacob was a deceiver, right? Known as a liar. You gotta be careful what is spoken on your life. Because in high school, my sister's ex-boyfriend and another dude, like they would call me compulsive. And I didn't realize I was a compulsive liar. I lied to get out of trouble, not because it lied to just lie. But when you're doing that, bro, next thing you know, you're like, it's like, oh yeah, how does this look? God looks good. And you just don't want to tell him like, no, that's a terrible outfit, especially to a sister. You're not going to do that. So it's like, but then it just carries on. They're like, bro, my nickname was Compulsive. And he's like, Jacob. But then why? What did happen? Jacob was the only person to wrestle with God. And he was like, I ain't going to let you go till you bless me. So what did he do? Hip out of place. Shoulder out of place. I'm in the hospital. They give me morphine, but morphine didn't work. And I'm here like, why doesn't morphine work? And it's like, Lord is in the sense I'm feeling is like, so that you can feel 0.0000001% of what was on that cross. Not even 1%, like so many zeros one. So you could, dude, it felt like there was a little person holding onto my arm, tugging it. That's how much it hurt. I remember Luz was there, my cousin was there, and he's like, boom. I went to church smiling. I started going to La Senda, I remember, because I was with their men's group. And I'm sitting in the back in this thing like, hermano, but how could you be smiling? And I told the pastor, I was like, look, the Lord spoke to me for the first time. He was like, not today, but you're going to deliver that message. And then I'm just sitting there one Sunday. He goes, Charles, bebaga. And then he was like, tell him. And I give him that story. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's fast forward. I tear my labrum in my hip. I'm still fighting with things. And the Lord's like, Charles, you're not giving me 100.
Wow.
You a lot closer, but you're like only 90% in. And I realized, like, I was still compromising certain areas. And, you know, most recently, it was a relationship that didn't go the way it should have gone. My fault. But in the midst of that, I'm like, wait a minute. And he was like, now I gotta hit you, because what do I use? I use basketball. I use the gym. That's why I would go to talk to God when I was a kid. I go to the park and I'm like, all right, Lord, it's just you and me. I can't even go to the gym now. I get surgery in January, and then where? My hip. Where was Jacob hit in his hip? And he's like, you gonna learn this lesson. But then here it is. Rewards, right? How old is your oldest child?
4.
4. Okay. So if you, let's say at 4, you ask your daughter, what's 3 plus 3? And she says 6. You would be like floored, right?
Yeah.
Now let's say she's 12 and you ask her, what's 3 plus 3? And she says 6. She should know that at 12.
Yeah.
If you ask her at 22, you're like, duh, yeah. Certain tests are meant for certain seasons.
Yeah.
Hurry up and pass that test, because the test that's meant for that age is what I need you to do. Like, I can't be taking 5 plus 5 tests now and then expecting the world to be like, yeah. I'm like, dog, you 41. You should have been known that 5 plus 5 is 10. Yo, and I was like, oh, and he's like, so now that this is happening to you, son, I need you to pass this test that you should have been passed, because there are tests that you are meant to take now at this age that I can't give you because you ain't passed this one that you should have been passed when you was like 22. And I was like, wow. Sir, yo, like a righteous fear that I said, you know what? It's confession. And it's like when you confess, boom, because you know how they say everything in the dark comes to light.
Yep.
However, the enemy likes to keep certain things in the dark that could also be good. Like when people are like, oh, this sin is dark, cool.
Yeah.
But then the enemy's like, yeah, wait, this is good. Now I need to keep that in the dark. Because if people know how good that is. But when you go to God, bro, he's like, good or bad, when this is exposed to light, look at what I can do for you. That's why I say Psalms 139, he's like, I know you messed up there. I know you messed up when you was a kid. I know you messed up at 12. I know you messed up at 22. I know you did this. I know you did that at 30. I know you did that at 34. And he's like, all right. But then it's like, so you wanna just fully dive in on 100 with me?
Mm-hmm.
Not 99. Yeah. Not 99.9. Fully 100. You're gonna slip. But it's one thing to slip at 100 in, as opposed to you slip and you're like, well, I wasn't all in. And it's like, yeah, well, now, hello. How about you be all in and it doesn't have the same effect? So now for me now, I have this new area where I'm like learning as I go, that I'm like, yeah, yes, I had a problem when I was younger. I was exposed to pornography at a young age. Now I want to help men who had that. Yes, I did stand up and I had jokes. Why? They're like, yo, wait, you did stand-up? Yes. But why? Why did I do it? Because I know what it's like to be depressed. I know what it's like to feel like the world's against you. I know what it's like to feel like you're by yourself, even when you're with a room with 100 people. So I did stand-up. One, because, I had jokes. I was a humorous person. But like, yo, you funny as heck. But I was like, I didn't want other people to feel bad. So I kind of did Kevin Hart, like laugh at my pain. All my stories were about me. And they're like, yo, where do you come up with this? I'm like, dog, I lived this. Like, I didn't make this up, bro. They're like, what? I'm like, yo, I should have been dead. I'm like, I've caused my mom and dad so many hospital bills. Bro, I got hit with a bat at 5. I should have been dead. I got hit by a car at 7. I can't, bro, yes.
Insane.
I jokingly say, like, North Carolina's not good to me. Why? I'm like, I've only been there 7 years and I've had like 4 surgeries. They're like, it's bad out there. Oh, yeah. I was like, shoulder, wisdom teeth, like, I just needed it. It had to be coming out. But boom, hernia, because I'm here squatting more because why? I'm at a university and there's a kid who's like 20 years younger than me putting up 300. And I'm like, nah, let's go. Pa que fue eso?
Yeah.
Torn hammy. I'm like, Lord, what is going on? He's like, I need you to slow down, son. And then that was it. I was like, okay. So at this last one, he's like, I couldn't work out. I couldn't do nothing. I'm on bed rest with a hip. I'm walking with a cane to work, limping like Jacob. And that's why I was like, understood. So then here we go. And this is like for the world because of how you gave me the introduction. Jacob. Then God said what his new name is, Israel, right? So for many years, people thought my name was Charles. My name is not Charles. So my first name is Charles Anthony. Mm-hmm. My mother gave that to me. I always went as Charles until recently, thanks to the surgery, you get that newfound, I'm fasting, I'm praying. It's like, I need you to now shift your name. Wow. Dude, when I told you, when I was coming here, I was like, oh, I'm going to say this. I'm going to talk about comedy. I'm going to talk about that. And it was like, yeah, no, you're not going to do that. You're gonna confess. You're going to apologize.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm like, wait, what? And I was like, bet. Because you said something. And that's why I told you the sister who said it. It was either Hannah or another sister. And you were like, yo, I'm going to sit here and like, yo, I'm going to just have celebs coming in. And I said, espérate, hermano. No. You got to twist it. See, we're the privileged one. You're the celebrity. You don't even know it. I was like, it's not about us. Like, bro, I'm lucky to be sitting here. And while we're having this conversation, they're like, oh, yeah, 1,000 subscribers, which is going to jump up. That's why I was like, yo, let's go viral. Let's talk about some stuff. We have a holy host of an audience that's watching this right now. Like,
wow, yeah.
Boom. So you gave me a platform, to be honest. You gave me a platform to confess my sins. You gave me a platform to say, yo, there's addiction and we need to help these people, right? On top of that. And also tell people like, yo, I'm sorry. You watching certain things you should not be watching. Yeah. I love Michael B. Jordan too, my man, but I'm not going to see Sinners. I had to give up a lot of my secular music. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was working at one of the most secular radio stations. And like, how do you do it? I mean, I had to separate. And yo, I remember I got in trouble. And I was happy to get in trouble. They used to have like video vixens come through the studio. I'm in the back in the green room editing. They used my green room to let the girls change and do makeup, right? They weren't getting like undressed before me. So what was I doing for each girl that stepped in there? Bro, unintentionally giving them the gospel.
Wow.
You know why? Oh, here we go. Yes, I remember. I was editing one of our plays that we did. Remember we did Relevación de la Cruz?
Yeah.
I'm editing a bit. And they were like, oh, what is that? I was like, oh, it's a church play I did. And then boom.
Open door right there.
Open door. Like, yo, one of those sisters years later came to Christ.
Wow.
I was like, I don't know. Like, Lord, I'm not saying I was the reason. No. But then I was like, man, that for me, like, gives me so much joy when I find out someone I spoke to came to Christ, whether they, whether it was like my seed, but someone else watered it. And I'm like, oh, wow. Or sometimes you're the water. Like someone planted it. They're like, yeah, but I'm going to use you to water now because you're going to be around that person enough that you're going to be the person to water it. I was like, oh, that pastor in Glassboro, when I was at Rowan, put the seed in, but it was Stacy and Fuente. When I went in, they was like, all right, we're going to water you because you got to blossom here strong enough so that now when I send you other places, you can do that. And I'm like, oh, man. I got to water. I got to be a seed. I got to do that. Bro, the sphere of obedience, man, that is on me now. I'm not going to get it right every day. I know it.
Yeah.
That's not an excuse to say I'm going to purposely mess up. Like, no. But it's just like, yo, where's that? That's why, like, for me, it is wild to see how people say excuses for certain things. And I'm like, who are you making an excuse for? Like, we both know eso no de Dios. Like, that's not. Why are you watching that? Why are you listening to that? Why are you doing that? Like, no, man. Like, I listen to certain pastors, certain people. I'm like, nah, miss me with the tickling of the ears. I'm like, yo, careful. I'm not here to bash other pastors, but I'm like, look, there's some certain people you should not be listening to. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm like, why? Because when you start destroying the leader in that household, I'm like, then you're destroying the church. There's a reason why there's more women that go to church than men. You know, there's a reason why we don't talk about sexual promiscuity at church, and we're just like, forgive and forget. Like, I detest that, because the Lord didn't say that. The Lord didn't say forgive and forget. So, yo, what? How many times do I forgive my brother? 70 times 7. Now, and I get you don't have to be around the person. I'm not saying that, but we're so quick that. In therapy, I love it. I need to protect my peace. God, I can't stand that phrase. I'm like, what are you talking? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you need to protect your peace. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, please show me the scripture. I'll give it to you. Like, what version? Where does it say that? Huh? Book of Never? Like that? Never. Come on, man. Yeah, chapter 0, verse -2. Like, yo, that don't equate. But why? Because God brings peace. I need to protect my peace. Okay. So are you saying protect your time with the Lord? Because that's where peace comes from. Is that what you mean? Like, we're so quick to give up on people who need assistance. I know, because I've been giving up on it. I'm like, I don't want to give up on someone else. I know what it's like to give up on somebody. So now, with whatever time I got left, let me not give up on you. Because one of the things I didn't like, and y'all can come for me, at the end of the day, it is what it is. I remember at one point I was serving and I was attending Hillsong in Montclair. Everybody was at a hot minute. And one of the things I disliked, and any other church, it was just I was there, is the favoritism. And everybody, like, I need to be in the front row, or, only VIP. I'm like, what are we doing? Why? I go, you know where Jesus would be sitting? In the back. He would be sitting with the people that aren't celebrities, VIP. And I was like, why? That I always paid attention more so to the folks in the back, because I'm like, they're the ones that probably don't feel welcome worthy. Or I'm like, I'm not cool enough for the second row. Or I'm like, I'm not good enough. I'm like, nah. That I like that one trick leap I did one time, and I was like, I'm ready for it when we went to camp. He was like, all right. He was like, don't say anything. He was like, just give me a wireless mic. And then he goes, all right, I want y'all to do something. What? I just want y'all to stay where you are, turn your chair around, just do it. And then all the people who were sitting in the back were now in the front. And he was preaching from that very front door. When we used to go to camp, those 2 doors. I remember it. And then he was like, don't think y'all sitting in the back. And to see the people that were in the front, like, thought they were going to get away with sitting in the back, like, and I was like, yeah, that's a smart move, my guy. Because there are people that need that. And they're like, either like, I don't want to be put on blast, or they're just like, nah, I don't want to be too close. And the Lord's like, no, because Jesus would be the one sitting in the back with you.
Yeah.
He'd be in the rafters. He'd be like, no, I don't need a special treatment. I'm sitting with the person. I'm sitting the person with the wheelchair. I'm sitting the person in the back. I'm sitting with the person who doesn't have flashy clothes and whatnot and stuff like that. No, I know what that's like, man. I know what it's like to not have a lot. You know what I mean? Yeah, I dress well, but I'm like, I'm not rich. I'm rich in Christ. My wealth is different. My wealth now comes from the Lord. Anything I get comes from him. Anything I lose comes from him. I can't take a home, land, nothing with me. Not saying I want to live like a poor man, but I realize like, yo, these things gone. Let me go to the source for assistance. You know what I'm saying? Because what you leave now is a legacy. Oh, leap it, man. I remember what he say. You're born, you die. The only thing that matters is that little dash in the middle. There's your whole legacy. That little dash. And I was like, what is your little dash going to say? And I'm like, oh, yo, it's like the little things that stick with you. I'm like, what is my dash going to say?
Wow.
If I am fortunate to have children, which I still would like to one day, what legacy am I leaving? So when I see like you, when I see my friends who have kids, I'm like, I'm always thinking like, yo, their kids have no idea like the wealth of knowledge as they grow that's going to be like imparted on them. that when they're like, oh, when I go, yeah, I remember my mom said this to me. I remember my dad did this to me or said this to me. Like, I am happy that I'm the youngest of 4. I always jokingly say like I was an accident. And they're like, no, it wasn't. I'm like, bet. This used to be one of my bits. I'm like, I'm the just in case kid. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, just in case the kid goes to the league, just in case the kid goes to jail, just in case the kid wins the lottery. Like, how you figure? I go, my mom had 3 kids. All right. Then she had me. I go, here are the 4 of us in order. And you tell me who's the just in case kid. And I go, Susan, Stephen, Stephanie, Charles Anthony. Who's the just in case kid? And I get the same. I'm like, yo. And my mom's like, Charles, no. You were loved. I'm like, you were loved it was an accident, Mom. You know, but if it wasn't for my brothers and sisters and my parents, I wouldn't be that man I am today. They all taught me different things. My older sister was the one that taught me, hey, make sure you put the girl on the inside when you're walking. You keep that lady on the inside. It was my sister who did that. I'm like, okay. It was my other sister who was like, is not a word. Enunciate. And I was like, yes. You know, it was like, oh, all right, excuse me. Oh, all right, better. Like, yeah. It was my big brother who was like, hey, he gave me the real scared straight. My brother was like, hey, you see this? What's that? I'm like, I remember he showed me, we were in the street. He was like, just to show you, what is that? I'm like, that's marijuana. Correct. He's like, what's that? I'm like, that's a crack pipe. Correct. What's that? I'm like, white powder. I'm like, that's cocaine or something. He's like, yeah. And he goes, what's that? And I'm looking, I'm like, I was like one of them little caramelacitos. He goes, no, that's heroin. And I was like, he goes, now, if I ever hear that you're near any of this, I'm going to give my friends permission to beat you on sight. When you're 14 and your 24-year-old big brother said that,
you were shook,
brother. I was like, I never touched any hard stuff. Now I won't lie and say like, sadly in college, you know, I touched stuff I shouldn't have touched. You know, marijuana. I was like, no, I'm good. You know, and I touched it a few times, so I'm not even gonna pretend like I didn't. But all that other stuff, I was scared. I didn't want to lose my teeth. I didn't want to lose my health. I was an athlete. I was like, chill. But I was more scared at 14. Yeah. Of my brother. I was like, nah. I'm good. I ran away from that nonsense. Are you kidding me? I was more scared of my brother than I was of my father. I was like, no, my brother would give me the work, give me the business. I was like, nope. I'll tell you, yo, I got my butt handed to me one time at 16 because my mom knew. But you know, your parents know everything. She was like, I'm not going to tell his father. She told my brother because I'm playing football. I come home one day. I just gave my back talk my mom on a Monday. She ain't say nothing on Tuesday. Who comes home on Wednesday for dinner? My brother. I didn't even think nothing of it. So my brother was like,
you thought you got away.
He was like, hey, let's go. He go upstairs so we could talk. I didn't think about it. And then until I got to my room, I said, oh, no. And he gave me the love. He's like, let's talk. He gave me the love. But I remember he was like, yo, you only get one mother. Don't mess up. I was like, all right. And then he was like, but you know I'm about to beat. I was like, oh, God. Worst beating in the world. But afterwards, hugs and love. But I knew why. I was like, yeah, I deserve that. Said some wild stuff to my mom. I was like, man, whatever. Mom sucking the teeth, rolling the eyes. I give my mom all that work. I was like, okay. I know who you're afraid of. Boop, 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 boop. It was not good. Ask me if I ever back talk my mom like that. Never, son, never. I love my mom. I'm like, ¿qué tú necesitas? What? I'm like, you good, mom? No, but but it's that. All of those things make me. But sadly, I wasn't even, it took me years to even tell my parents, like, I have an addiction and I'm getting help.
Wow.
Do you know what that is, bro? Like, people realize to be like, hey, mom, hey, dad. My dad didn't get it. You know, my dad's an old school Dominican. Now he understands, but it was just like, you know, it was just like, I went to college. It was just, don't get anybody pregnant.
Yeah.
What? That's the worst advice. Yeah. How about some other stuff along with it? Like, if you find a woman worthy enough, but both, you know, court, like do all the but you know, you're not getting that. But again, they didn't have that. My dad didn't have that.
Yeah.
So now that I do, I can't even tell you how many times I'm preaching without preaching because you got to be careful at a public institution.
Yeah.
Certain things you can and can't say. I'm like, guys, I'm like, if you could delay, make good decisions, you know, stuff like that. You know, so now that's where I'm at now. Like, that's what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to, whoever I cross paths with at my church, whoever I cross paths with at my university or at home, I'm like, how can I help you? You know, I'm like, when you say, oh, be better than me, you know, they're like, oh, I want to be like, you know, be better than me. I'm like, no. I don't want you to go through the same pain I went through. So it's not even about be better than me. How can I help you not go through what I went through?
Yeah.
I don't want you to go through that pain, that suffering. I don't want you to go through addiction, self-sabotage, and I don't want you to feel like you're ever alone or you can't say, hey, I struggle with this or I struggled with this. Cool, let's get you help. And not because you're some like, oh, help, this person's sick. No, let's get you real foundational help. If God was healing people with amenities, he was also helping people who had psychological dependencies. It's like, okay, you have a depraved mind. Hay que arreglar eso.
Yeah.
You struggle with this. Let's heal that. And we still are in the healing business. So we have to do that. And so for me now, it's like, how can I help? You know, and one is avenues like this.
Yeah.
To have a conversation, to be like, hey, here's a dude who thought, you're like, yo, he's good. Like, nah, man. At one point, I looked like I was good. I put on a mask. They were like, and inside I was dying. I stopped comedy because do you know that statistically, comics are some of the most depressed people in the world?
Yeah.
My mom worried about that. And I was like, yeah, I stopped. I stopped for like 8 months because I was depressed. I was like, I would do a set. And they're like, oh, you're funny as everything. And then I go home and I'm alone. And I'm like, my phone is dry. And I'm like, you want to be around people, but you want to be around people and not always have to be on.
Yeah.
You just want to be around people. And then you want to be around people that you can, hey, I'm going through this. Blah, blah, blah. So I learned to be that person for other people. And I finally gave in when he's like, I didn't ask you to be number 2. I didn't ask you to be Scotty. I'm like, now I'm here like, all right, Lord, well then I'm going to trust you to send me my Scotty. It's like, yeah, I will send you your suitable helper. It may not look like the way you want it to look, but I got you, son. And it's the best feeling in the world. Scary as everything. I ain't going to play. But it's the best feeling in the world, bro.
Bro, as I always say to everybody, but it needs to be said. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Like,
100%.
I know that 16, 17-year-old me would have benefited from this conversation and hearing the things that God has brought you through and what God has done in your life, bro, because like you said, the church isn't having these conversations and we need to be having these conversations. We need to take control over the discourse. We need to go to where the people are.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they're in the midst of the pain. They're in the midst of the suffering.
Yeah.
They're in the midst of the mask.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the church is happy with the mask. They
Yeah.
want the mask.
Yeah.
Because you get too real. They're like, oh my goodness, you know, why are you still falling?
Yeah.
You don't want to hear that when you're falling. You don't want to hear that when you're suffering. You're already beating yourself up.
Yeah.
What you want to hear is, nah, there's still hope. I know this is the 100th time you told me. Let's keep going. Okay, let's figure out what we could do next.
Yeah.
Because eventually you're going to receive healing. Well, let's talk about your relationship with God. How do you need to get closer to God?
Yeah.
And so it's a pleasure to see where you are in your journey and to see how far you've come and to see that you're willing to give back now, because a lot of people, there's a lot of people that they never get healed. They just stay in that thing forever.
Yeah.
And then there's people that get healed and that's where they stop.
No,
They don't give it back.
Yeah. I would say healing is continuous. Like
It needs to.
I wouldn't lie and be like, I can't say I'm fully healed. I heal every day.
You need to kill that flesh every single day,
Every
bro,
day.
because if not, it's going to come right back.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, bro, I just pray that God will continue to bless everything that you're doing and continue to give you
100%.
directives and continue to bring you young men who need you.
Yeah.
And that there's some young men and that can hear this episode and really, really, really make a decision to pursue Jesus and to dive into intimacy with him.
That's my hope, man. That's my hope.
So guys, if you want to connect with Charles, his information is down in the description below. We hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. Make sure that you stay tuned for another episode that's coming up on the screen that YouTube thinks you'll like. I didn't put it. YouTube literally thinks you will like this episode. So check it out. And you guys have an amazing week. We will see you in the next one. Peace.